All right. Okay, comrades. Look, I think we are very keen to hear from Comrade Sadara. The situation in Nigeria is in a crisis. Not to say that there's been even development and political tranquility for any period in Nigerian history, where we've had a history of coups and counter coups and much instability. But the headlines now on Nigeria are particularly of an economic crisis, a crisis which has come about in a sense, or accelerated. It's not come about. It's basically the crisis of developing countries in a world markets in which currencies of developing countries are crashing. Inflation is rising. And the conditions for the working class are worsening at quite a rate. But instead of an austerity problem leading to IMF intervention and to some results, we see the very opposite. Just as in Britain, Liz Truss carried out policies which were meant to be ideal in terms of capitalist development, but actually ended up having a catastrophic effect and having to resign after a period. Now, in Nigeria, we've seen something similar. The currency has crashed, I think, by something like 50% over the past period, and it's led on to rising inflation, hitting the basic conditions of workers, and in particular, the urban working class. Yeah, I can see. Roger, if you could help him mute.
Can everybody mute, please? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Thanks, comrades. And now we see a situation. Why should the currency crisis lead to such inflation? It's basically because, as in many African countries, food is imported. Even though we have a rising population, which is basically agriculture, focused on agricultural development, and insufficient food is being produced, and food is being imported at catastrophic price increases because of the decline in the currency. So we see the floating currency has led to this crash. Inflation is now with workers, and on top of it, the government has removed the subsidy on the petrol price, and that's led to a inflation right across the board. Now, how has the working class responded? Well, we're going to hear from Comrade Sadara, but we have had a general strike in the recent period. We see that workers are working now to be able to unite and put up a fight against such austerity and catastrophe, for their living standards. So Comrade Sadara is a social activist. He's a trade unionist and working with the revolutionary socialist movement, which is within the International Standpoint platform. And now we want to hear this International Socialist Standpoint. Apologies, Andros. We now want to hear directly from Nigeria how workers are responding to this crisis.
Thank you very much,
comrades. Would you like to cover over? And could other comrades please mute, because we do seem to have a little bit of cross.
Thank you very much, comrades, for the introduction. It's been a turbulent period here in this part of the world. Nigeria is the biggest country in Africa in population, in landscape, and also in economy. But our own people with population of about 200 million, estimated, has about 80 million of its people living in abject poverty. The abject poverty is that about 30 people live below $1 a day. An Indian company, research company, in 2018, around 2018 and 2019, realized that Nigeria surpassed India. India, with a population of about 2 billion, used to be poverty capital of the world. But this time around, Nigeria, with a population of 200 million, and half is about 80 people, 80% of the people living below poverty level. It means that Nigeria overtake India as poverty capital of the world. As we speak, in the last 1 month, I'm not sure that any part of the country has have about 12 hours electricity. The country is in complete mess, but there has also been resistance. Just this evening, about 137 school children were released from captive of bandits, or you call it terrorists, or you call it organized kidnappers. About 2 weeks ago, more than 500 of them or 300 of them were kidnapped in different schools across Kaduna State, a north central state in Nigeria. So when we talk about the crisis of people not being able to eat, we must also talk about the increasing level of insecurity. Then we need to also talk about the increasing crisis of migration. Of course, migration is as old as old as human history, but at this period is completely different. Infrastructure-wise in Nigeria, despite that the ruling class in Nigeria borrows money from China, from US, a few weeks ago, our Minister of Foreign Affairs is with the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs in Moscow, trying to solve Nigerian problem by moving from one imperialist to the other. But practically, it is still zero. We have no infrastructure. 2 times last year, the railway provided with the support from China spoiled at different parts of the country. There are high level of insecurity, which may be linked to kidnapping, your cargo will be burgled, you could be victim of people that kidnap you and request for ransom, your house may be burgled, armed gang can come to your house in the midnight, take over your phone, your money, beat you up if you don't have money, and escape. Because there is no security infrastructure. Nigeria is not as organized as maybe European countries. And all of these are crises of neoliberalism. Nigeria got our independence in 1960, when dollar at that time can be 1 naira. Nigeria currency is when Nigeria currency is 1 naira, is equals to $1. But today, the ruling class and their friends were celebrating about about 340 naira deduction from official rates of $160 exchange to dollar. Naira exchange to dollar. Because they have a depleting foreign reserve, Nigeria do not produce anything that it exports. Its own oil, which is the bedrock of the economy. Nigerian economy, Nigerian income as a country is specifically on crude oil, and we have about 90% export. We do not have a single refinery. We have had 8 years of Buhari that ended May last year, who promised to bring dollar to $1, $1. But by the time he's leaving government, it was $1 to 700 naira. We continue to have people struggling. So some sections of Nigeria, like the Yoruba, they have the Arewa Republic. Biafra, they want to leave Nigeria, struggle for self-determinations are breaking out. People want to fight back. There is no political alternative. Each and every of them have created a warlord. What I mean by warlord is that few of them want to return back to work with their own country. So they were armed. They have local traditional fighting equipment in order to say they want to create their own country. But of course, we support the struggle for self-determination. But we want the importance of, if they have their own country, either Biafra, either the Oduduwa Republic, if it is on basis of capitalism, the crisis will continue. For over decades, the country with 200 million population only have 4,600 mega power for our own people. So which means that the companies, big multinational companies that are used to operate in Nigeria are leaving to Ghana and other countries as a result of payment for energy, because we do not have power supply. Billions of naira by different governments from 1999, when Nigeria returned to civil rule. Billions of dollars has been spent on power. But practically, there is no solution. In the last 5 years, over 1,500 children, school children, have been kidnapped from different schools. Anybody can be kidnapped, either young or old. But the kidnappers this time around concentrated on young people, children, vulnerable. So when you look at the crisis of why young people in Africa becomes a threat to the European ruling class, it's as a result of three things. First is the economy. Nigerian economy is in bad shape. Secondly, is the insecurity. Living life expectancy in Nigeria, as we speak, for men in general, is 48. While for women is 49. So in that kind of country, people fear that death can befall them anytime. But they see a future in Europe. They want to come to England. They want to come to Greece. They want to come to many parts of the world to seek solution for a greener pasture. The other side of it is also that infrastructure-wise, we have no infrastructure to welcome people to modern technology. Hardly could you see a functional train in Nigeria that meets the standard of anyone you can see in Europe. Also, the crisis is resonating from one regime to the other, from one regime to the other, from the civilian, since the return to civilian after about 3 decades of military rule in 1999. Nigerian crisis has been from one regime to another, promising fantastic speeches during campaigns, election campaigns, promising to provide electricity, promising to provide good roads, promising to stop privatization, promising to make education more better. As we speak, education is underfunded. One of the Nigerian universities ranking about 20 in the world. So many young people in Africa who are from middle class, who have access to money, want to leave Nigeria they come to school, study in Europe, they go to Russia, so that when they study, they are part of the system. There is no need to come back to Africa. Unemployment rate in Nigeria as of 2020 is 33.3%. But graphically, when you look at the number of young people, the surge of productions between the old and the young, Nigerian youth population is about 140 million compared to the old age people. So what it means is that in a country that we have fantastic number of youth from the north to the south, if it is well organized, it gives hope. If people have access to resources, to farm, technology to advance, there are infrastructures to accelerate growth. Roads are not given out in contracts to criminals, friends of politicians, because what they do in Nigeria is that politicians who are in power give contracts in billions of naira to their friends as a means of empowering them and keep for them, steal for them for the next election cycle. Elections in Africa are not early digitalized like in Europe or in other part of the world that I've read about. I've not witnessed any election outside Africa, outside Nigeria. But on the elections days, you can give people as small as €3, £2, $4 to secure votes. So the three ruling political parties are run by money banks, and they run the politics as business. So it makes it difficult when they were in power for people to challenge them. But they have always been challenged because it's the working class in Africa, in Nigeria. The student struggle have a long history of resistance. I will still go a bit about that while we're speaking. And some other things about Nigeria is that we have fantastic enough resources. We have resources. It has been stolen. It has been still. They are still stealing it. They are still sharing, and it has not finished. And they keep borrowing. They borrow from China. They borrow everywhere, and they are not building any infrastructure. It is practically barbarism. Politicians, elected legislative arms, a few months ago bought cars that worth about $200,000 for each of the representatives. Even the radical, the so-called Labour Party representatives also collected the money without any resistance. So the other side is also the question of the economy is in the hand of the rich. Some few months, sometimes last month, one of the richest banker in Nigeria died. They call him Migu. He died in US, trying to travel through the world to watch a football match. During the burial and some activities around the burial, rich people in Nigeria were confessed, including past CBN governors, how he has helped them to keep money. Their billions of naira were kept in different kind of bankers. So that kind of economy is not in favor of the ordinary people. And they did not plan to make it to be for the ordinary people. So more than what they do is something like a Kenyanism, attempts to do some social programs, share 50,000, 100,000 for the unemployed. The past regime did that for a long time. So these are what we face as a country. But significantly, Nigerians have made, through the labor movement, social groups have also resist. Last year in January 2012, we have an Occupy Nigeria where more than millions of Nigerians across Nigeria were fighting on the streets in order to resist, resist the removal of fuel subsidy. Millions of Nigerians were on the street from right to left, south, north, south, west, to reject the regime of good luck. Unfortunately, part of those who joined us to fight these anti-poor policies were in power today, and they implement the same policy. Even though Nigeria have two prominent political parties, aside just last election that we have the Labour Party, but their policies are not different. In fact, many of them can be in the party in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the other party. So the party to them is just an electoral vehicle. The other side is that in 2020, because of colonialism and the way Nigerian police were brought up, and also because of colonialism, the police in Nigeria assume they are better than any other person. So they can easily use them to repress people. They slap people, protesters, they arrest and detain people in order of the rich. So in 2020, the young people, about millions of Nigerians, about 20 million youths were on the street across the country, calling EndSARS, calling for EndSARS. It was a mass protest, the first ever witnessed mass protest organized by the youth. Of course, there is no leadership, no clear leadership. It shook the regime of the Buhari regime to its foundation. By the 10th, by the second week of the protest, They have no option than to bear the struggle than to physically kill people. In education sector, between the last decades, we have been struggling to fight against education commercialization. Different regimes has made attempts to privatize it in a way that ordinary people will not have access to education. We have also launched a lot of campaigns, the Safe Education campaign, to resist attempts to introduce student loan. The student last year, between the last 3 years, have had many barricades across the country. Protests in the University of Jos, protests across many universities. So the fighting against all of these policies is on, and there are campaigns. There is an attempt by the new regime to introduce student loan so that it can help people to graduate. After your graduation, you come back to pay. We resisted and said it is better you give people grants. If politicians are collecting jumbo pays, living a provocating style of life, it shows that we have enough resources to meet the needs of everybody. But the greed of capitalism and those who run the economy majorly for their business to strive, for them to make more profit, they do not want something like that. So in reality, the crisis keeps increasing. Last year, we have about many general strikes. We have about 3 general strikes. Why they trade unions start taking momentum and fighting? The working class remain resolute. Ordinary people want the labor movement to kick against all of the government policies, because the policies have directly increased inflation by 33.3%, which means that what you buy last year for $1 now is now $2,500. And in the process, the regime lost completely the control of the economy. And in the process of reviving the economy, they want to fight corruption. But they could not fight corruption because they are even the custodian of corruption themselves. All of the arms of government that are supposed to fight corruption have practically been fought over. The corruption, people who are about to fight corruption themselves are bags of corruption. We have had so many allegations against those who came to power between now and last year, May 29, under the Tinubu regime. For instance, 3 months ago, towards the early this year, I think, the minister that is in charge of humanitarian affairs, a ministry created to cater for people, to make social service, social programs, disbursements of some money to some group of vulnerable people. Practically, were stealing the same money, paying to themselves, pumping accounts, trying to siphon public money. Of course, the minister was removed. The under counterpart was left to continue his ministry in the Ministry of Foreign Interior. But the person who have not been charged to any court, and no charges have been brought towards to her. So when you look at the whole scenario, in coming period there will be mass struggles that will break out. The political situation is stable in terms of the 4 year ritual and the elections. even though the elections are full of rigging, bribing, violence. There are mass killings during the elections, and most times the elections were even sponsored by European Union. Billions of dollars will be sent from European Union, United Nations to campaign against violence, to do this. But see, the elections are not always in favorable condition for ordinary people. The ruling class continue to stiffen their hegemony because they know that they are singing on the keg of gunpowder. They have always made attempt in the past to stop protests, but have always restricted that.
Comrade, excuse me.
Yeah.
If we could start to wind up, you will have a chance to come in to answer questions, and towards the end, if you.
So how many minutes do I? How many minutes do I have?
Well, look, you've got many more minutes, but a little bit later. In other words, if you could we give you 5 minutes? I apologize for a late start, but then if you could do that, and then I'm sure there are going to be many questions too. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just speak for maybe 10 minutes more. Then we can attend to questions. There are also contributions from comrades in Nigeria. So practically, when you look at all the scenarios around Nigeria, it affects other African countries. But many of the African countries also rely on Nigeria. That is why life is not better for people in Benin Republic, the people in Ghana, the people in Togo, or the people in Nigeria. The ruling class in Nigeria also used to pretend as if they are taking Nigeria to a better destination. But every time it's always on basis of capitalism, on basis of anti-poor policies. Like I have said, there will be more agitations here and there because people felt disenfranchised. People felt that their will, their reasons, their will, their talents have been undermined in a united Nigeria. But it's a national question that we have always put. Nigeria, as we speak, we need to reconsider. We have 6 geopolitical zones. We have 6 geopolitical zones. We have a lot of tribes. Nigeria have about 500 languages, but 3 major languages were noted and the way Nigeria is partitioned by the British colonial masters, it still remains the same. Nigeria was undemocratic yoked together by Lord Lugard in 1914. And the attempt is to continue to keep Nigeria together so that they can continue to pilot the resources of Nigeria. But we have always argued that Nigeria needs to come together in a sovereign national conference to discuss, do we need to continue to be in power? Do we need to continue to live together? These elements in power, should we continue to keep them to live in flamboyant resources, despite that the resources is collectively owned but is not collectively shared? What type of government should we move on? Should we continue federalism, or should we run the confederalism? Some bourgeois politicians also campaigning for restructuring. They want Nigeria to be restructured and everything. So it is a chaotic situation. The president who was elected last year has been a former governor. And under his leadership, workers' leaders were arrested, detained, and jailed. He ruled in one of the biggest states economically in Nigeria, Lagos State. And practically there was nothing that changed under him for the 8 years he was governor. But because of the bourgeois politics, they make a lot of PR, a lot of campaigns. Despite that, has been indicted for drug trafficking in Chicago, in the US in the 80s. A lot of issues, a lot of blackmailing around him. But because of budget politics, he still gets his way to the presidential villa. And since he has been in power, nothing has changed in the life of ordinary people, except those who are close to him. And we have a labor movement whose ideology is based on collective bargaining. There is a huge difference between a fighting labor movement that is ready to organize political alternative, take over power, build a working class movement. But we have the labor movement we have presently has been bogged down by two things. The first thing is the level of consciousness. And the second thing is because of his past antecedent of fighting and living at the middle of the road. So it makes it difficult for people to trust. Maybe if they call a protest today, are we sure they are going to protest? If there are strikes today, are we sure the strike will not be suspended before 12 midnight? Like I said, but last year, we have 3 general strikes, 2 jointly by the NSC and the TUC, 1 by the NSC, by the TUC, then 1 by the NSC itself. We always support all general strikes by all trade unions centers, because it's the only way that you can force the ruling class to meet the demands of ordinary people. So the labor movements have made attempts. The labor movements, they are not presently against the devaluation of Naira. They were not against the removal of subsidy, but they were fighting. They were fighting for palliatives, a new minimum wage. As we speak, we are fighting for a new minimum wage, because the rate of inflation have shown disparity also in our income, because the income of the politicians are collecting jumbo pay. The means of transportation has increased. People don't know if whatever you buy on Monday, you are not sure that by Friday the price will not have been increased. So those are the crises that we are, and the labor movements are aware of this. They have articulated this. They have articulated with a new minimum wage committee has been formed to review the minimum wage to meet the needs, so that the minimum wage will be able to be like a bridge, to match the rate of inflation. And our campaign has always been that we need a new minimum wage. We need a living wage that can survive each and everybody. But the ruling class will not be able to meet this demand. Presently, the both NS and TUC are clamoring for $492. That's about 480 something thousand naira. So, on the workers' alternative, the NSC and the TUC in 2022 make attempt to revive the Labour Party. The Labour Party was formed in 2002 by the Labour leadership under Adam Oshiomhole. And the reason it was formed on basis of social democracy, so as to be an alternative for the ordinary people.
But along the line, we've had another 10 minutes. If you could sum up now, because please remember, you will have a chance to come back. I'm not cutting you off completely.
Okay.
I'm
rounding
up. Debate. I'm so sorry. Yeah, because we did start a bit late.
Yes, I understand. So the crisis we have now is a working class alternative. Absent of a working class alternative, we have struggled for a political party before. We have a political party, Socialist Party of Nigeria. We struggled to get it registered for 3 years illegal. We launched a legal political battle. under the leadership of late Segun Shanko. But the party was registered because we did not win enough votes in the election. That is the character of Nigeria fake democracy, because the democracy is basically for the bourgeoisie, for the ordinary, for the rich people. But because we couldn't share money in election, we only run our campaign telling people free education is possible, a decent minimum wage is possible, we can mass housing and everything. So those are the, but we are working with other groups to discuss which direction should we go in the question of building a political alternative. And we have always canvassed within the people. So during our campaigns, posters, flyers, we tell people practically we need to nationalize the key sectors of the economy. A case of privatization, failure of privatization have shown in the power sector. For over 11 years, it has been in the hand of business men and women, and it has always been run on basis of business. And the labor leaders have even said that the privatization of power has failed. So, comrades, we are working towards, and our campaigns are really good, that the key sectors of the economy must be nationalized to meet the needs and must be democratized. And it can only be possible when we have a working class political alternative that can stand in election on basis of a socialist program, where the abundant resources of Nigeria can be used to meet the needs of everybody. So thank you very much, comrades.
Okay, thank you, comrade. And I'm sorry to have to come in and make sure we would enable others to come in. You will have many opportunities to come back again. Could I ask for comrades to indicate who's coming in? I see we have a number of Nigerian comrades. Maybe you would like to make a contribution. Please raise your hand. I mean, on electronically if you can. I think Comrade Sadara is presented quite an extraordinary analysis showing that the working class has been quite active with 3 general strikes last year and the general strike this year, and yet little has been achieved. But maybe the focus of discussion could turn around how the working class is organized, the question of the Labour Party, which is graphically described, and that of a socialist party, as well. How's the working class to be united? And how are some of these, catastrophic economic conditions going to be overcome, as being portrayed towards the end? I can see Comrade, I think it is Torajom. I hope I've got it right. Most, if you could come in. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening. Here in Nigeria is evening. And I don't know what time is it on the other side of the world where you are, but I just want to extend my greetings to everyone. Can you hear me? Hello.
So sorry, comrade. Could other comrades please mute? There's too much feedback.
नहीं तू जो पी रहा है तू अरे तू तो तू पी रहा तुम तो पी ना भाई क्यों रे बाड़ा
Hello.
तिकडे भेटते बेटा अच्छा है ओ नागोरी नागोरी बंद लगते हैं चालू है
there is an Indian or somebody who is trying to speak Pakistani.
नहीं चालू है रे लगते हैं
comrades, I'm trying to mute, but
चलो शटर बंद है ठंडी भी है ना और होली भी होने और जल रहा है ना जो
Comrade Laxman, could you mute? Okay, please go ahead, Comrade Torjo.
Right. Good evening. My name is Yotion Moses. I'm a law student and also a historian. And I want to give credence to what Comrade Dimeji said a few minutes ago. You see, the working class in Nigeria in particular, the elite, they have weaponized poverty. So there's too much poverty in the land in the sense that everybody is struggling to find a way to eat. So they have turned their back on asking critical questions before the leadership of the country and to also present to them what is currently happening. Oladimeji is in the western part of Nigeria, that's in the southwest, where I am from the Middle Belt region, otherwise known as North Central Nigeria. I have witnessed violence, well, let me say high-scale violence of armed bandits, otherwise known as armed herdsmen, who have taken upon themselves to dislodge a lot of people here, who before now their only source of livelihood has been agriculture. They no longer stay in their villages, they stay in IDP camps, and the government is so happy because of the fact that they've weaponized poverty. Periodically during election or during campaign periods, they go to these IDP camps to make frivolous promises to these people. At the end of the day, they end up not achieving any of them. Or they renegade on the promises. Whereas the people who have come from other sub-Saharan African countries or sub-Saharan countries such as Niger, Chad, Burkina Faso, and the rest, they are the ones who have occupied these villages right now and speak. I have a video. I don't know if there's a means I could share the video where I took a tour on one of the recently affected villages, where these people completely destroyed educational facilities in these villages. And they have dislodged them totally, and the people are not permitted even to go back. Now, the Nigerian government, on the side of awakening the spirit of comradeship in the Nigerian students, they have tried to infiltrate Nigerian students' union activism in such a way that students are also incapacitated and can no longer ask critical questions or challenge the status quo of the leadership in such institutions, with the frivolous increment in school tuition fees and other registrations. Like here in the University of Jos, as the comment rightly said, we staged a protest, but the protest did not yield any results because it will always fall on deaf ears. So we ended up wasting our time, though we tried to make some impact. We did not actually make any headway. We did not yield any fruit because we ended up paying the same amount of school fees in which we protested against. A lot of people, as a result of that, had to drop out of school. And up to this moment, they have not been able to return to school. And some also do not have a means of livelihood now that they are falling out of school, something to rely upon. So the situation here is very, very dire. And the government seems not to care. So, like, the issue of political money among themselves, they money where they buy cars, they build personal industries, and they also invest in other countries at the detriment of the common people in Nigeria. So for now, one of the major problems bedeviling the movement in Nigeria is first the economic disparity, poverty, and illiteracy. Because in the northern part of the country, illiteracy is at a peak. It is very high over here. And we all know that where the people are not educated, it tends to create a societal catastrophe because these people do not know their rights. They do not know that they are supposed to hold the government accountable. So what they do is that they only wait when food comes. We go to, last week, we lost about 7 students from the National State University, where these students were killed during the stampede when they went to get food, which the government claimed to be sharing as palliatives to these students. So you can see that somebody who is in a tertiary institution of learning as a university has now been reduced to somebody who is now begging for food to go and queue up to collect food rations from the government, and they ended up losing their lives. That is to tell you that the Nigerian government does not have value on the life of its citizens, provided people in Abuja are living safe. We heard yesterday that about 420-something students who were earlier kidnapped by bandits and taken into the forest. Yesterday, we heard that they were released. So the circumstances surrounding their release has been very sketchy. We don't know if it was a military operation that led to them being released or it was a ransom that was being paid. However, there's a recurrence of such situations on a daily basis, and a lot of them are unreported. So people out there do not know. There's also repression on the side of the government. They repress. They want to censor the content in which we give out to people, so their failures do not look glaring. So these are some of the challenges we face. For some of us, we have taken it upon ourselves to try to speak the truth with the little facts we have, despite the fact that there are enormous challenges surrounding such activities in which we have embarked upon to try to hold government officials accountable and to try to see that the public educational system is being safe so that Nigerians can get educated, Nigerians can get food on their tables, and that Nigerians can also go to bed with all their eyes closed. So I think I will pause here for now and allow others to also talk.
Okay, marvelous. Thank you so much, comrade, for those concrete points. Any other indications, comrades coming in, or questions to be put to the speaker? Comrade Alpha, please come in. Please unmute. Okay, there we go. Comrade, can we hear you? Comrade Alpha Marshall? I see that you're unmuted, but we can't hear you for some reason. Maybe we could come back. Okay, no, you're fine. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you for some reason. Wonder if we could come back to you. Please, you keep your hand up so that we know that you're waiting. Any other comrades could come in while Comrade Alpha is sorting out the communication problems. Any other comrade from across the board, not necessarily the Nigerian comrades, although we would love to hear from you. Well, look, let's try Comrade Alpha again. Please, yes, no, I can see you unmuted. Please speak. I'm so sorry. We can't hear you. I don't know what to suggest. But look, please keep trying. Even if you interrupt us, I'll give you the right of way. Any other comrade who could speak? Just one fact I've just seen. Comrade Sadara mentioned that the Naira started at the equivalent of $1, $1 for 1 Naira. Now I see recently it went up to 1 to 141, which shows, just the complete destruction of currencies in the former colonial world, something which has affected even major economies such as South Africa as well, and countries throughout the African region and elsewhere. And all of this brings the burden of inflation and of lower living standards acutely to the working class. Other comrades to indicate, please put a hand up. Roger, would you come in?
Thanks, comrades. I was very interested to hear what Comrade Solare said. I don't have any comments to make because I have to confess that I don't know very much about the situation. I'm here to listen and to learn. But I was wondering if Comrade Solare or one of the other comrades could perhaps tell us more about their own work and their own intervention in these workers' struggles, because I think that would be very useful for us and maybe very inspiring.
Comrade, I can see, yes, it would be great to hear what happened in relation to the last general strike. Apparently, it was meant to be for 2 days, but was called off on after the first day. Comrade Salako, if you could come in, please.
All right. Good evening, comrades. Can you hear me? Hello, comrades.
Hear you. We can hear you, comrade.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Comrade Shadari have given a very detailed lead off, and I just want to, concerning the questions the last comrade asked about our part in the struggle to liberate the Nigerians. We in the RSM, we have always been in forefront of the struggle for the liberation of Nigerian workers. We participated in the last protest. Myself, I led about 60 members of motorcycle union to the scene of to the protest ground. But it's quite sad that the labor leadership, with the willingness of the Nigerian workers, said in their memorandum that the protests have met the demand. Though we in our statement we keep asking them, what do you mean by the protests have achieved the aim? Because even right now, there have not been any implementation of those demands by the workers. There have not been any way the government shows that they are going to reverse all the anti-poor policy. So, like he said, one of the challenge we have is to provide workers alternative with the ruling elites. The capitalists have been frustrating the struggle of reducing a socialist party of Nigeria. After we file our application, they still don't register. We have to
Comrade, I'm sorry. I think you muted somehow and we lost you. Please come back.
So we have to go into regular battle before we are being registered. And again, because of the level of our campaign, the way we are able to raise the consciousness of the ordinary members, ordinary masses of Nigeria, the ruling elite saw it that it's going to be a crisis for them. The Socialist Party of Nigeria. And in where we are now, we are working with other left group in Nigeria to kickstart another struggle, whether to register the Socialist Party or to also look if we can register another party entirely. And we have always ready, calling on the labor union, the labor leadership to take their position, to fight for the liberation of the ordinary Nigerians. And we hope with our struggle, because the software, I cannot start mentioning a lot of things. The ordinary workers, a lot of there is this hunger in the land that the removal of subsidy have, the hardship the removal of subsidy have inflicted on the ordinary masses is great. We now see people falling on the road because of hunger. There is nowhere that is safe in Nigeria. The only place that was secure, or that is secure in Nigeria, is where the ruling elite domicile, where they stay. But anywhere, even in infrastructure, there is a wide gap between where the working class are living and where the ruling elite are living. You don't need much stress to know that, okay, this is the ruling elite area and this is the poor and the workers area. So there's a lot of challenges in Nigeria and a lot of crises, and the capitalists are the cause of the problem, because I remember the IMF intervention in Nigeria is also killing us. Our government officials are puppets to the IMF and the World Bank. They keep borrowing, all in the name of, okay, they want to use it to build the infrastructure, but at the end of the day, they share the money among themselves and nothing is left for the working class to live for. So that's my own brief contribution, Congress. Thank you.
Comrade, thanks so much for some concrete points. I don't know if we could go back to the comrade who was trying to come in a while back. But look, meanwhile, maybe Comrade Adamalola, if you could now come in.
Yes, sorry, good evening, comrades. I will not be able to use my video because I am not currently where I can use my video. But then there are 2 or 3 major issues I want to raise quickly. Number one is since the coming in of our president, the new president last year, he made 2 major policies that are worked against the people, that have been against people. Number one is the subsidy removal, the removal of subsidy. Before the government came in, the fuel was sold at around 160 naira per liter. Unfortunately, when they came inside, he said that Nigeria can no longer sustain paying subsidies on the price of petrol. So instead, he decided to remove subsidy, and fuel was sold as around 600 naira per liter. Of course, this was the first major problem that Nigerians faced, because it caused a hike in transport fare and also in the price of goods across board. Of course, you will agree with us that individuals need this fuel to transport their goods from their farm to the market. So it is normal for it to spike, a kind of increase, a kind of hike in the price of goods and commodities across the board. In fact, also it affected transport system. Many people were stranded in the first few days of these policies. So that their reason was that subsidy, the amount, the subsidy, money paid as subsidy is going to the pocket of a few people, and that after claiming the subsidy, these persons, they divert the fuel back to another countries to go and sell after claiming subsidies from Nigerian government. Then our position then was that instead of putting millions of Nigerians into a problem, why not arrest and put and jail the looters who are in charge of this subsidy scam? So our slogan there was that we do not support the removal of subsidy because millions of Nigerians are benefiting from this subsidy. However, we call on the government to end the corruption in subsidy, retain subsidy, but remove the corruption in subsidy, because those people who are actually perpetrating this act were also friends and families of the government. So you cannot, because few people, less than 100 people, are siphoning the funds of the country, now you now decide not to put millions, more than 200 millions of Nigerians into problem. Of course, we have some elements in the union, among the union leaders who were also in support of the union. They believed in the reason of the government that Nigeria cannot sustain it well. But our position then was that subsidy is a national benefit and should not be removed for any reason. Instead, the corruption in subsidy should be removed, and that even if subsidy will be removed at all, the basis of removed subsidy should be that our refineries in Nigeria is working. Nigeria, being one of the major exporters, major producers of petroleum, cannot even boast of a single working refinery in all of the years of activities. That's a slap on Nigeria itself, because how can Nigeria cannot be able to boast of a single working refinery? So that having working refinery in Nigeria could also be a reason, a very valid reason for many people to consider that Nigeria is ripe to removing the subsidy. Then the second major one was the floating of Naira. Again, the Tinubu regime felt that it cannot continue to defend Naira, that the best policy is to float Naira, to allow Naira to compete naturally with the price of dollar, and perhaps after a few weeks it will find a balance and retain its natural spot. Well, to us, we believe that Nigeria is not yet ripe for all of these policies. For instance, Nigeria is majorly an importer of products. Most of our transactions are coming in dollars. So if this is allowed to stay, then it will also cause hardship and inflict hardship on millions of Nigerians. So that instead of removing subsidy, instead of removing or floating Naira abruptly, we supposed to have implemented some programs on ground before we take that kind of step. For instance, Nigeria needs to intensify its effort to start to become an exporter of finished or refined products, agricultural products, instead of importing. So that we believe that Nigeria is not yet for this floating of Naira. All of these two major policies have caused a lot of issues for the working people of the country, so that the poor people have gone from being poor to being impoverished, because the dollar to Naira ratio now is around 1,400 Naira. So today, which means that an average worker with a minimum wage of 30,000 Naira, it means that 30,000 Naira, going by the exchange value, you can see that an average Nigerian minimum wage is going home $21 a month. $21 a month. So all of these issues are the major crises that the policies of the government that has affected the people. And then some other issues we have been having are the insecurity issue. We've had about 600 plus people who have died, who have been killed within the first 8 months of Tinubu in office. We also experienced hike in fees, particularly in the education sector. Public tertiary institutions across Nigeria started increasing their fees at about 200%. Of course, we have participated in some of these struggles, which I will also highlight very soon. Another major talking point is the student loan. We believe that student loan, a serious government will not introduce student loan. Education is a major is a major duty of a government to the citizens, so that you cannot commercialize or commodify education for citizens. The level at which Nigeria is not yet ripe for us to start taking education away from the. Instead, we should make education more affordable and attractive for the people. Hence, our position was that student grants should be introduced instead of student loan, so that if education is made to be so attractive and affordable for the people, more and more people will come into education, and then we cannot start to improve our economy based on the level of education that we have. But instead, the Tinubu government felt that the solution is to give student loans to afford public education, whereas public education should be free and affordable, free, public funded, and democratically managed by the people. These same people that make education, that take education out of the reach of people, enjoyed free education when they were young. So why is it that it's now that we're now introducing student loan when they're supposed to be introducing student grants to ensure that education is free and affordable to all? Of course, I will mention just three out of all of the interventions that we have made. We have made so many interventions, but I will mention three out of them. Number one is the fee must fall struggle that we participated in. This fee must fall struggle was organized by different institutions around Nigeria that were affected by the hike in fees. Students of the poor, even after the removal of subsidy and their increments in cost of living generally, schools, tertiary institutions in Nigeria still went ahead to increase their fees by an average of 200%. Whereas most of the students in Nigeria, they're either self-sponsored or children of the working people. How do you expect people who are struggling on 30,000 minimum wage to afford school fees as high as 500,000? That is about a 16 month salary. Then we joined and participated actively in this struggle. Fee must fall. We demanded that fees across education across tertiary institutions should be free, public funded, and even the composition of tertiary institutions should be democratic. And that major protest, of course, the outcome of the protest was that we had slight reductions across board. Some increased their fees by about 100%, but the fees did not return back to them. But of course, we have laid a foundation that we can continue to build on in subsequent struggles. The second one is the Let the Poor Breathe struggle. This Let the Poor Breathe struggle was the struggle that started immediately after the subsidy removal, August last year. Millions of Nigerians took out to lodge complaint, to demand from the government a grant for them to breathe, because the government, which came on the mantra that they want to allow the poor to breathe, is now suffocating the poor. Then Nigerians troop out in their numbers to protest with the slogan, "Let the poor breathe." Of course, we also participated in the struggle in Lagos, in Abuja, and in other states where we have our members, and we also have some other CSOs across the country who participated actively in all of these struggles. Then the final one, which I want to talk about, is the End Hunger protest. The End Hunger protest was the recent one that occurred recently in February 21, 22, and 23. This was the protest that was supposed to last for 2 days, but the labor leaders cut it off on the basis that the aim of the protest, which was supposed to be 2 days, has been achieved in just a day. Well, we don't know the data that they used to come about that conclusion. But the fact was that we in the RSM and some other organizations, we started the protest earlier than the labor leaders called. Of course, they called the protest for Tuesday and Wednesday, but the protest started on Monday, which means that on our own part, we completed our 2 days strike. Of course, they also gave the government 7 plus 7 days, that's 14 days ultimatum to find solutions, and up to now, we are yet to hear again from the labor leaders. And these are some of the interventions that we have made, and also the basis, the foundation of the problems that is facing us in Nigeria. I believe that Nigeria is currently sitting on a keg of gunpowder, so that even not now, but very soon, protests will still continue to erupt around different states of the country. And by then, we are always ready to participate and give leadership to all of those kind of struggles. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Comrade Domalilo. Many concrete points there, and also about a organizational effort, to transcend some of the difficulties that are being experienced in the movement itself. I see that Comrade Alpha is now indicating again. Please unmute, Comrade. I hope we can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Comrade, good evening. Am I hearable now? Am I hearable, comrades?
Sorry, yes, Comrade.
Yes,
please
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Marshall, Alpha Marshall. I represent NLC. I'm the State Secretary for Nigerian Labour Congress, Akwa Ibom State, somewhere in the South. Comrade Sadari has done a good job giving a lowdown on the struggles and crises in Nigeria. I give him kudos for a job well done in that aspect. I just want to make two interventions. One is regarding the last two strikes in Nigeria, and also the NLC and the Labour Party. Let me start with the last two strikes to make some clarities. Nigerian Labour Congress went into an agreement with the federal government around October last year. In fact, on October 13th, we had an agreement with the federal government, a 15-point agreement, which was signed, sealed, and delivered, and the government promised to implement. That was an MOU reached between the government of Nigeria and the labor and organized labor. The 15-point agreement was signed. Now, within a time frame, there were to be a kind of a show of will to execute the items, the 15-point agreed items. That was led to the last two-day major strike. That two-day major strike was actually to remind government that you have not done what was agreed upon. And we are giving you this 2 days warning strike to give you a final warning that we are coming for the total shutdown of the nation if the 15-point agenda was not reached. Since the 2 day strike happened, 28 and 27 and 28 of last month, nothing has happened as we speak. Now, labor is bidding its time. By end of this month, 31st of March, 2024, that will mark the end of the minimum wage by law. And by 1st of April, we're going to have a new minimum wage in the country also by law. So labor is waiting to see what will be the new minimum wage after having submitted its own proposals on what should be the minimum wage for the workers in Nigeria. And government has accepted the labor's demands, and they have set up a committee, a tripartite committee, to work out a minimum wage for the workers in Nigeria come April 1st. Because by law, the minimum wage will be expiring by 31st of this month. And by 1st of April, Nigeria is expected to have a new minimum wage that suits the whims and caprices of every worker in Nigeria. So NLC is waiting patiently till the 1st of April to hear the outcome of the minimum wage, if it is acceptable to the Nigerian workers. And if it's not acceptable to the Nigerian workers, the NLC will shut down this nation until the right things are done. Nigeria deserves better than she's getting. We do not have any business with poverty. This country is stinkingly rich with mineral resources and human resources, but have been poorly managed by the leaders of this country, the bourgeois class, which a friend of mine he calls them a ruining, not a ruling class, but a ruining class. They have come to ruin the nation. We have no business to be the poverty capital of the world. Apologies to Sadari. You know, we shouldn't be a poverty capital of the world based on our resources. It's just poor management and poor leadership. And NLC, under the able leadership of the NLC president, Comrade Joe Ajero, is willing to tackle this menace and to emancipate the workers of Nigeria. Comrades, moving on to the NLC and the Labour Party. The Labour Party was established by the Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC. The Labour Party was established to rival the bourgeois parties in Nigeria, namely the APC, which is the ruling class, and the PDP. You know, these two parties has made a caricature of the economy, made a caricature of the society, and made a caricature of the country. So the NLC set up the Labour Party that should allow every Dick and Harry, every worker, to come into Labour Party and vie for any position he deems fit, without much troubles and without much hackles. So the Labour Party currently is in crisis because the ruling party, the government has been able to penetrate the Labour Party. In the last 6-7 months, there has been an internal crisis between we had two Labour Party chairmen, one led by Comrade Lamidia Papa, a factional national chairman, and also the current chairman by the name Julius Abure. We believe that the government is steering these two crises because they needed to weaken the Labour Party, which obviously was the choice of Nigerians, but because of certain gaps in the electoral systems, Labour Party was relegated to third position, and we knew what happened. We are only waiting for our time. We are bidding our time, because a time shall come that the people of Nigerians will rise to take their place, their position.
Comrade, unfortunately, somehow you're muted again. Please bring your points back again. Yeah.
Okay. Am I hearable?
Again, yes.
Okay. So in summary, the NLC is currently on a march to recover the Labour Party from the sharks that have taken hold on the party. Julius Abure, who happens to be the current chairman of NLC, is recalcitrant, is calling for a convention, a national convention that will elect leaders without consulting with the owners of the party, which is NLC. NLC is saying no, you cannot have a national convention without a letter of invitation or informing we, who are the owners of the party, what we are about to do. So NLC is saying postpone that convention, do the needful, and let's move on from there. But the chairman of the NLC, of the Labour Party, is insisting that the convention must hold. And that shows that the chairman of a Labour Party, national chairman of a Labour Party, is not in tandem with NLC ideals, and because he has been accused by a treasurer of Labour Party of embezzling election funds, money that came in from diaspora, in support of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, running into millions of dollars. So, and Abure, which is the Labour Party chairman, has not come clean to explain the party he played and how the money was spent regarding the last election. So NLC is asking him questions and is not providing answers. So NLC is asking him, he has to do the needful, let him make every dust to settle before he can now call for national convention. And if he's to go ahead with that convention, it's just to make himself become a personality cult that cannot be touched, and he will remain by unanimous decision. He remains the chairman of a Labour Party, and NLC is saying no to it. So currently, NLC is still insisting that convention, which is scheduled to hold on the 29th of this month, a few days from now, should not hold, and it will not hold. And I believe NLC is making efforts to call the chairman of Labour Party to order, that the Labour Party is not his private property. It is a property of the Nigerian workers, ably owned or domiciled in the leadership of Nigerian Labour Congress. So that is the issue between NLC and Labour Party. NLC is doing all it can to restore sanity and to bring back Labour Party to what it should be, a party that represents the interests and of the workers of Nigeria. Comrades, I thank you for listening. Sorry for the initial glitches. It's not of my own efforts. I sincerely apologize. Thank you for the attention. Thank you.
Comrade Marshall, thanks for some very illuminating points. Can I congratulate the Nigerian working class, because it seems alone among African countries, at least to my knowledge, that there is actually a Labour Party. It's the most extraordinary development, and that it's linked to the trade union center. As you know, in South Africa, we've been struggling for this for the last 40 years or longer, to have a Labour Party, a Workers' Party, linked to the trade unions. But unfortunately, the so-called liberation movement is absolutely opposed to this and wants to carry out a neoliberal policy with the support of the trade union leaders who are part of the system. So, it's an extraordinary achievement, and I've learned a lot from what you've said. The crisis in the Labour Party is obviously critical for the working classes fight back. We wish the comrades all strength and organizing to make sure that the trade unions, as in Britain and elsewhere, actually are exerting their leadership in a Labour Party of that kind. It's an extraordinary development which we'd like to learn more about. I know South African workers, unfortunately, I apologize, we don't have more of our South African comrades connected for so many reasons, but this is a major lesson from the discussion. I wonder if we could have further comrades to come in on the discussion, and then please, Comrade Sadara, I hope you're making notes on the points to come back in response. Any further discussion? Well, Comrade Sadara, I can see you're just taking a break. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to just bring you back. But if Comrade Sadara, would you be ready to come back now and respond to many of these points and sum up on the discussion?
Okay. Generally, Dami there have been nice contributions. Dami has been able to expatiate our work, and Komikayo has also been able to explain the roles to the campaigns, the activities we have played. Rogers requested our activities in Nigeria. We work in the trade unions, work in communities, we work in the student and the youth movement. We launched the Safe Public Education campaign last year with some demands. We work with other groups in the Safe Public Education campaign. We also have the Workers and Youth United Network, which is basically around the work of the youth. Not that we have been an identical, because of identical politics, no. Is to have a platform for people to join us, to be able to recruit into the RSM. And that is also similar to the Safe Public Education campaign. Actively, we participated in all daily struggles of the working people. It is not easy because of many of our members are unemployed, self-employed, underemployed, people just graduated and no job. So, but of course, we tried our best as much as possible to continue to recruit. For instance, if not because of the situation of Nigeria, we will have about 20 members of the RSM here, because some may not have access to internet, some may have other engagements, and so on and so forth. So the question of the Labour Party still remains that even the last election, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party is a bourgeoisie, a former governor under one of the ruling political party at that time, the People's Democratic Party. No, AFGA, either AFGA or PDP, whatever. But the thing is that we have always support the need to reclaim the Labour Party. It may be difficult, but it's a possible task that is possible. Because as we speak, ordinary people cannot contest the Labour Party. Comrade Marshall is a very close comrade. I'm not sure he can contest as a councillor in the Labour Party, because what was that thing called? Was it nomination form? Okay, nomination fee to contest the Labour Party today is okay. May not be less than maybe about $3,000, no, about $500 or $1,000 to get a nomination form to stand in the Labour Party. So, of course, we tried to work with Shore in the 2019 election, general election. Shore is a popular human rights activist who has been detained in Nigeria. Of course, was detained for 5 months after it was released, after we raised a lot of campaign with other comrades, locally and internationally, to get him released. He was first kept in Abuja for another 3 years, where he could not move outside the capital of Nigeria before he was now allowed to move outside Nigeria. He's a populist candidate from the African Action Congress. So the AAC say they are the Socialist Party, but we do not see them as Socialist Party. But of course, they have a lot of radical programs. We worked with them at the last election, so they got a very small vote because of the level of consciousness, the type of elections we run, where people, money bags, politicians buy votes. But the election has gone. We are preparing for ahead. The struggles are breaking out. The Labour Party still remains a registered political party. We support all attempts by the NSC and the TUC to reclaim it, but it must be reclaimed to meet the needs of the ordinary workers, where a political party where ordinary workers can stand in the election with its social program. Because the Labour Party have a social programs that are genuinely going to lift ordinary working class people. It was designed by externalists in the year 2000. The constitution was designed by some externalists in the year 2000, 2001, 2002. So of course, I was also a former member of the Labour Party. We joined the Labour Party in 2011, but we left after we realized that they are not ready to build the Labour Party in that year. So we keep struggling to say, okay, we can still come together to have a new political party. The DSM committee has reached out to us on January 1st this year, that they think we can reapply the registration of the Socialist Party of Nigeria. And like I've said, there is going to be more struggles that will be breaking out. There is so many struggles, and we are prepared to participate in these daily struggles. We are prepared to continue. We will raise our campaigns also with the media campaign. Our news press statements are read, are captured in many national newspapers. So it's a work in progress, and we keep trying our best. So that's my contribution in rounding up comments. Thank you very much.
Apologies, comrade. Look, many thanks for those points. We've had some technical difficulties, but if I can put it this way, we've had an extraordinary range of opinion and of facts and insights and perspectives from the Nigerian comrades. And I personally, not that I've read deeply on Nigeria, but this gives a lot of insight into the processes which are taking place in the most decisive country in Africa. I mean, we like to think at times, a few South Africans, that South Africa is decisive, but it's just at the tip of the continent, whereas Nigeria is right at the center. And as you've mentioned, Comrade Sadara, with many connections through to all the countries of West Africa, in particular Ghana, but also to the smaller countries, which are also adjacent to Nigeria. And what happens in Nigeria will definitely have more than ripples. It'll send waves, shock waves, through the rest of West Africa and through the continent. So, the position that the comrades have in fighting for socialism and against the most radical neoliberal policies that we've seen in Africa are really critical. And I have to say that speaking as a South African about South Africans, really we know so little about the rest of Africa. We know much more about what's happening in Gaza than we know what's happening in Nigeria, and certainly more than we know what's happening in Sudan, which is actually having even more people killed in war than in Gaza at the moment. So, comrades, we applaud the contribution that the comrades have made. And I want to thank particularly Comrade Sadara. We apologize again for the technical issues. We hope that we won't have those. We can't understand where they came from, but we've had a very rich discussion. And maybe out of this discussion, Comrade Andros, we could bring together some notes or some contributions, because this is a very valuable set of contributions. Comrade Sadara, if we could somehow do that, that would I'd be very keen to see that, you know, some of this would be posted in South African publications, which are, you know, oriented to the working class, and will bring to the notice of the working class the immense struggles, general strike after general strike, and struggle after struggle, all of which is you know, bringing out the class perspective on the African continent. So again, many thanks to the comrades. I think you've made a marvelous contribution. Roger, I wondered if you would come in on what we can anticipate in the coming week.
Right. First of all, I also would like to add my thanks to all the Nigerian comrades who participated. Do please come along to future meetings. We meet every week and discuss the struggles and the problems of the working class worldwide. Having said that, next week is a religious holiday in our part of the world. That's Easter. And although we're not at all religious, we're very happy to take the excuse of having a week off. So next week we won't be meeting. And please watch out for your emails for news of the next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks' time.
Okay, thank you, comrades, and applause to all the comrades. We know that often communications are very poor in Africa. We appreciate all the struggle that you've made to connect and to share with us some really valuable insights. Thank you.
Thank you, and bye.
Right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm out.
Bye-bye. Okay.